Radio check, everybody, for our bad start there. Sorry about that. And yeah, welcome aboard, everybody, for a new episode of the Sitrep podcast. Please forgive our little bit of a rough start there. I am your host and master of catastrophes. That was a joke in the running order. It turned out to be an actual literal truth. Sorry about that.
It's
Oriskany Jim, and of course for this episode, I am joined by my friends Marty and Piotr. Marty, how you doing?
good morning. I am well, sir. Thank
Oh,
you.
Hi, Piotr. What's going on? So sorry, everybody. What wound up
not much.
happening? Sorry, everybody. What wound up happening was I had a pre-scheduled podcast, of course, already set up, and then when I went to go live, somehow I started a different podcast. So everyone who was waiting for us to start was waiting for us in that room. Meanwhile, I'd started another stream over here, and obviously that didn't work. So sorry about that. It looks like we are up, and okay, cool. We've already got some people having joined us. Cool. Thanks very much.
Nice.
So again, anybody drop a comment in there and be part of the show. So now that we've got all of our technical silliness out of the way, um, what's going on, everybody? Any small talk? Any team updates? Um, what's going? How are you guys doing?
So, last weekend was or last show, I should say,
Right.
was our Memorial Day show. And I'm the commander of our local VFW post. So we had a whole bunch of stuff that we did, not hobby related, but VFW related. We do a ceremony at one of our local cemeteries. We posted about 2,300 flags on veterans' graves there. So they do that on Friday. And then Monday morning, we do a formal ceremony there, which is well attended. And then we do another ceremony strictly for our post and the community that we represent here locally at one of their local parks. So went and did that. And then afterwards, had Bill and Chris over to the house, and we barbecued.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So had some ribs and beer and whatnot. Good time was had by all. Had good weather that day.
Anything going on over there in Poland, Piotr?
Well, not really. I'm swamped with work, so it's really hard to do something interesting in my life lately, basically, however this may sound. But I'm dealing with introducing a new computer system at work, so it takes a lot of my time, and the weather is not great, so no means of having a barbecue or anything like that at the moment. Because it's all cloudy or rainy almost all the time. So we're not having a great beginning of the summer so far.
Yeah, that's kind of how it is in Florida. People who live in South Florida, John, you know what I'm talking about. Um, June it gets literally biblical. Um, it's not like this every year, but it rains a lot in June. Let's just put it that way. I've seen Junes where it rains literally every single day. You literally have 40 days and nights of rain. And the flooding gets really bad, not surprisingly. So then again, if we don't get a lot of rain in June, that means we're in for 9 months of wildfires and everything else and drought. So
Right.
you have to get it now or else. And throughout the summer months, that's the only thing that keeps the heat under control is that it rains literally every day. At least here in South Florida.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, that the Marines have a cooling effect, and the heat is cumulative. I don't know if people realize that, but the longer it's hot, the hotter it gets.
Oh yeah, especially
You
like in a
definitely
big
want
urban
it.
environment. When it starts to rain, when it starts to like the sun beats down, it warms the asphalt, it warms the concrete, and like the roof of your house, especially if it
It's
faces south or
yeah,
west. It's
on buildings and
Well,
parking garages and all those things just become heat sinks and hold on to it. So
I
yeah,
remember. I remember that they were painting, I believe, in Los Angeles last year. They made an experiment. They painted some of the roads white. I don't know how it came out. Just to
oh yeah,
so
to
the sun doesn't
hopefully
accumulate the heat.
reflect some of the heat rather than I
Yeah.
don't know. I actually never read about that. I know they're having a hell of a drought out there. As much as we're
Oh,
complaining
yeah.
about the rain, they're like,
right.
please send us some of that rain.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. California will take it in general.
yeah, trust me, they're finding like dead bodies at the bottom of Lake Mead. Because no, I'm serious. Like
Cars and boats and all this crazy
airplanes
stuff.
and shit. Cause yeah, the water's getting so low. They're seeing parts of Lake Mead they haven't seen since the 20s, and it's like, wow, when did this guy get whacked? By like
Oh.
Bugsy Siegel in
Have they
Las
found the
Vegas.
Akagi?
They
Yeah.
found the Akagi. They found Jimmy Hoffa. They found God knows what out there.
Right?
Um, so yeah, we got a great audience so
Elvis.
far. Damon is with us. Hello, Damon. Thanks very much.
Hey,
John is
morning,
with us.
Damon.
Yeah, John. Sorry about the mix-up. I started the podcast on time and on schedule, just in the wrong place because moving swiftly forward. Dennis
Well,
says greetings from Kansas.
oh, hey. All right,
Hello,
Kansas.
hello.
Yeah, John. We're talking about South Florida. John says welcome to hell. Come on, man. We just got through the really beautiful part of the year. Now we have to put up with crap. I mean, Florida, we have like 4 seasons, like most other seasons, except it's always Florida. So our seasons are tourist season, rainy season, hurricane season, and then we have one actual nice. You live in South Florida for January to March. After that, it's hell for one reason or another.
That's why all the snowbirds from where I'm at go down there.
Well, usually they're home by then. Like tourist season is usually like the holidays, so like a little bit of October, November, December for Christmas. Hopefully by December, get your asses out of my state, go home. Thank you for spending all your money down here. That's why you don't have state income tax. Just spend all your money and just go, or just don't even spend it. Just come down, get to the state line, give us your money, and then just turn around and drive back.
yeah, set up a large donation box there
right.
at the
Florida's
border, right in the
Florida's on
visitor center.
Kickstarter. If you've seen the state of our roads and our schools, we can probably start a Kickstarter. GoFundMe, Save Florida. But anyway, a sunken barrel. There you go. Okay, so yeah, I guess we could go ahead and start with what everyone's been doing with hobby. So, any hobby with you, Marty?
Yeah, so I've been I primed up a bunch of Russians, and I'm still working on them. I also primed up a squad of U.S. Rangers, like current era guys.
Right.
And then yesterday, thanks to our good friend Tim Spakowski over at Special Artisan Service Miniatures, I got a SAS squad with the dog. So got my I don't know if you can see this. He's primed black currently, so he might be kind of rough to see, but that's my
So
my doggo.
Is that a camera on his back, or?
It is. Yeah.
Okay. Please tell me it's not the anti-tank tilter like we saw the
No,
Russians do.
It's not a tilt rod. No.
Yeah, tilt rod. Thank you. I couldn't remember the name of it.
No, but that's been the stuff that I've really kind of been working on, and I'm kind of still priming up some of those dudes because I primed them all black, and then I'm going back and like the skin tone, I'm going over them with a white primer as well to that way I don't have to work so hard with the paint when I actually get
to get coverage.
Yeah. But that's pretty much all I've done the past couple of weeks. I did also from Tim Spakowski. I also got a set of rules. Before I mess up the name, hold on. Fistful of Lead, Horse and Musket, 2nd edition. As you recall, I got the what do you call it? Savage Frontier Kickstarter from Tim.
Okay.
So I've got all those miniatures, and I've got probably half of them painted, as well as that cool boat. But I didn't have. He ended up not publishing the rules with them. He wasn't able to get him to a place where he was satisfied. So instead, he offered a couple of options there. So from Wiley Games, I got the Fistful of Lead rules there. So now I can actually play my little dudes.
Savage Frontier, for people in our chat, that is the winter campaign in the French and Indian War.
Yep.
Or 7 Years' War, if you're a weirdo like Piotr from Europe, who insists on calling the war by its proper name. That might not.
It's not my fault. You have to have your name for everything.
Well, we don't like to think like we call it the War of 1812. you were a sideshow in the Napoleonic Wars. We just don't like to think that we were like the CBI of the Napoleonic Wars or the 7 Years' War. It's like, oh yeah, there's that other campaign going on over there as well.
That little thing on the across the ocean. Yeah,
we're having an actual proper war over here. Over there, there's like a puff of musket smoke. That's the French and Indian War. It's fine.
Yeah, but that's
I agree.
That's about all I've been doing.
All right, cool. Yeah, I usually prime my vehicles black, and I use black for priming mostly, and then I try to do some sort of xenophil thing with my base color, with my base spray, like for my base color, and it never really works. I always say I'm not going to overspray this time, so that I always have like that false shadow underneath. And somehow I always wind up overpainting because coverage when you're going over black primer is a chore for sure.
Yeah, that's why I'm going back and hitting the skin on everybody with some white primer, so that way it'll end up some shade of gray. But when I try to make it a skin color, I won't have to work so hard with the paint.
Yeah, the only big figures I've ever done, I did some 40 millimeter or 1 to 48, whatever you want to call it, knuckle duster, Old West stuff for my dad. I actually wound up priming them white, like a flat white, because there was a lot. Also, I had the Saloon Girls,
right?
So there was a fair amount of flesh to be painted on. So not to sound like a dirty old man, but in all seriousness, the black primer was not working on that because it was tough to get coverage.
Yeah, and as an experiment to see if it would work and make my life easier for the Russians, I primed them green because they're going to have some dark green uniforms. I'm like, I wonder if I start with green, if that'll make it easier. Put a dark green base coat on over the primer, and then go from there for the camo pattern.
It cuts down.
I'll let you know.
It cuts down on the number of layers and might preserve some additional detail.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. I don't know. We'll find out. I'll let you know next show.
Real quick, before we get to you, Piotr, Jen Lemon asks, how is the Bill stuff, absorption / new studio setup coming? So I think she's asking about like when are we going to get the Chicago studio up and going as far as.
So everything is now over at Chris's house and is moved into like the proper room-ish as far as the equipment goes. We still need to move the actual, we've got a 4x8 table. That still needs to get moved down there for our playing surface. That's at his old house still. And then we need to just set the stuff up, I think. Cool. Because I think all of the equipment is there. I mean, there's the amount of crap that is in that basement right now.
Oh, yeah, they got a hell of a collection, that's for sure.
So, yeah. So I think we've got everything there. So he was finishing up moving him in, and his mom lives with him, so I had to move all her stuff as well. So they've got the, I don't know, the 80% solution over there as far as their household setup. So now we can start working on some of that stuff, as well as, like I said, we got some stuff over at his old place that we still need to scoop up and bring over. But the studio equipment itself, I think, is all there except for I have one light set here that I absconded with, so I can see if I can do something at my place.
John says, Lake Mead, there's probably, he reckons there is an old mob hit in there. Yeah, there's going to be, all right.
Oh.
Like a mob hit in a sunken barrel. So I saw a sunken barrel before. I didn't see the comment before that.
I bet there's a bunch.
Oh, I know. I'm surprised I only find one.
Tonight you sleep with the fishes.
Exactly. This is what you get for turning Tony into hamburger. So John also says, sounds like pinched nerve is a little bit better, Marty. So hopefully you're painting again.
It is. Thanks, John. So I've been dealing with this since the beginning of April, and it is slowly but surely. It's because I've got disintegrated discs in my neck, and they'll squish out and bulge out, and so. But it's slowly but surely kind of working its way back in. I've done some physical therapy. I've done round of steroids. So it turns out it just takes a really long time. to get it back into place. But I don't have a lot of pain anymore. But I do have occasionally some loss of sensation. My hand will get tingly kind of thing.
Yep.
And I don't have real good fine motor controls sometimes. So it still slows my roll a little bit, but as John's keen to notice, it's good enough that I can start slapping some paint around again. So I'm feeling much better about that because I haven't like legitimately painted anything in like 2 months. So
cool.
I'm ready now.
That's good to hear. All right, Piotr, what's going on your hobby table? What do you got?
Oh, a lot actually.
Cool.
Despite the things that I said earlier that I'm swamped with work, because it's true. But I managed to finish some Team Yankee tanks. Maybe not only Team Yankee, but basically some tanks. So I have 2 Shermans, the improved performance version built, and also 3 M1 IP.
Yeah.
Cool. The name, and 2 and 3 T64s also, and we've done some recordings with my friend Arek, and we were talking about Team Yankee in general, the state of how the game is looking in Poland. We also discussed our tournament that we went to like 3 weeks ago, I believe, from now. And we had a small talk about why people don't really enjoy the game. Maybe not why people don't enjoy the game, but why some people think it's not really fun or realistic or whatever, because it's not a simulation, just a beer and pretzel games for some of the grognards, so to speak.
I don't know why you're looking at me when you say that. I never said I didn't like Team Yankee, except sometimes I kind of did.
How do you know where
we might need to fact check that one, Jim. I think that might have been mentioned.
Yeah.
It was a productive week, because we are already thinking about doing some more recordings, especially on a game that was published in 2019, I believe. It's called 7 Days to the River Rhine by Great Escape Games. It's also, of course, about the 80s and the war that never happened. But we want to check out this rules system and see how it's doing comparing to the Team Yankee stuff. But that's in the near future, probably when I come back from my vacation. So July. That's all basically. I also today managed to put some primer on my IDF force. So chaparrals, shieldcast, and some jeeps. That's what I managed to prime before my spray can went dead.
Oh, no.
But I have some more to do.
So, also in those videos, especially part 2. By the way, those videos are really great. If anyone here among our audience hasn't checked those out yet, especially, I mean, if you look at the view count on YouTube, they're up there with some of our better stuff lately. Especially since they went out on Wednesday. Usually our Wednesday content doesn't do as well as our Sunday content, and especially part 1, the Piotr's discussion with his friend Eric. Hopefully, I'm saying that right. Yeah, that stuff went through the roof. It got like well over. It met all its goals like on day 1, and it pretty much doubled them by the end of that first week, and they're still climbing. So especially part 2. I think you guys were talking briefly about some future releases that you've heard about for Team Yankee.
Yeah, because there's rumor going on that the NATO book is coming next year, probably. So we don't know yet what's going to be inside of it, of course. But Red Dawn is coming this year, I believe December or maybe November. So the attack on America.
You gotta do it. You ready? Are you ready, Marty? You gotta
That's
yell,
right.
Wolverines!
Wolverines!
With the world's dumbest invasion scenario in the history of the business. I think you said that they're not coming down through Alaska, or are we just kidding around about that?
Yeah, we're making fun that it's not going to come to Alaska, man. We're going to invade from Cuba.
And raise your hand if you've ever been to Alaska. Okay, there's literally no road. I think now they finally built one, like the
No,
Yukon Highway or the
I was just gonna say there's one.
There's one that they finished. They've recently finished, but there was no road back in the 80s. The Prince Rupert Highway or the Yukon Highway that actually leads from, and even then it's not a straight shot because Alaska doesn't really
straight because the geography doesn't lend itself to that.
It's all islands.
Oh, yeah.
Alaska is some very weird terrain up there. And even if there is a road there, I would not want to launch a continental spanning invasion based on one 2-lane strip of asphalt. You thought Market Garden was bad with one highway. You invade the United States on one road? Good luck with all that.
I was gonna say, look at the challenge they're having. They've had in the Ukraine doing that, and that's literally right next door to them. They're going over their own border there.
It's more realistic than the second one. They did the remake. I think somewhere in the 2010s.
I didn't even watch it.
It wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it. Yeah, because they obviously back then they didn't think the Russians were going to be a problem, so they said, let's change the big enemy to China. China invades the United States. Why? When they can just buy the United States? But then they changed it. Yeah, they changed it from China because they wanted to release the movie in China. We all know how this goes. The movie industry caters to the Chinese a lot, and before you know it, it was okay. We can't have the Chinese be the bad guys. We'll have it be North Korea. North Korea invades the United States because that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, North Korea can't even invade South Korea.
North Korea can't invade North Korea. They're all starving to death.
I think we've all seen those satellite photos of North Korea at night.
Yep.
And it gets really, really dark.
I don't know if you guys know, but there are clubs of guys and, of course, women that are very fond of North Korea. And these clubs are set up all around the world, and they are somehow supported by the North Korean government. I recently watched a documentary about this, guys. So these people that are involved in those clubs, of course, get medals from North Korea. They can go to North Korea. They set up businesses within Europe and other countries, pretending to not be involved with North Koreans, of course. And there was a guy from, I believe, Sweden, who decided to become a part of their Scandinavian North Korea lovers club, so to speak. And he began to get higher and higher up the organization. So he went to North Korea. He met with some officials over there and the intelligence officers, of course. They even didn't bother to check him out, who he actually is. There's a guy in Europe, I believe in France, that he's the head of the European, so to speak, North Korea lovers community or whatever it's called. And they were trying to set up underground arms factory on an island somewhere in Africa. And it's all documented because they were going with, microphones and hidden cameras to speak with the African officials. And they were pretending to build a resort, I believe, on top of the island. And beneath, they were trying to produce to build an arms factory. They even had plans for it. But the guy at one point when he had all the intel on record, and he decided to come out and say, okay, it was just a joke, I'm undercover, so to speak, over here. And the guys, all the North Korean lovers, they were like furious. He had some threats of his life going on and stuff like that. But it's hilarious. I didn't know that there are clubs of people who love North Korea.
The correct term is sleeper cell. We have to keep an eye on it. Sleeper cell.
That's right.
Oh yeah, sleeper cell. That's true. But it was funny. And basing on this documentary and how their intelligence and other stuff works, I don't believe they are able to invade anything.
Invade the United States.
I would have to agree with you on that one, Piotr.
Yeah,
I don't think they're invading anybody anytime soon.
If you want to have conventional warfare in the United States, like in an alternate history setting, there are ways to do it. We've done, I know Piotr and I have talked about this in the past. My brother and I used to kick around a plan along with friends from back in the 90s. We had, possible invasion plans of the United States. You have to go back to as early as the American Civil War and start flipping small historical switches to sort of set history on a different trajectory, to where the United States becomes invadable, basically. I mean, right now it's just a matter of geography. Um, and the country, we only really have two borders, and Canada is basically uninvadable. I mean, we've tried at least twice, and we failed miserably both times,
Yeah.
1775 and 1814. Yeah, so Canada is just too big. I mean, you thought invading Russia was hard. When your tank columns are getting assailed by, companies of beavers, it's not gonna work. You're gonna
Yeah.
you're not gonna get lost
When
in
you
the snow.
when you have polar bears on your team,
Yeah.
maybe this isn't the place for you.
And I want to see someone try to push an army through Mexico, in the state Mexico's in right now. I mean, they can barely control the country, some parts of the country as it is. Good luck, trying to push an army through Mexico along those routes. And also, I mean, that's like a 2,000-mile front. If you try to invade the United States through Mexico, that goes from San Diego over to, what is it, Brownsville over in Texas.
Yep.
That's a 2,200-mile front, 2,700-mile front, something like that, across a river. And where there's not a river, there's a desert. And where there's not desert, there's mountains. And then past the mountains, there's more desert. And after that is San Diego. So you've got all kinds of terrible terrain. I'm just kidding. San Diego's a beautiful town. I'm just jealous I don't live there because it's way too expensive.
Yeah. Well. Oh yeah. And one of our largest naval bases might be there as well.
Yeah. Also, First Marine Division just literally lives there. Yeah, Camp Pendleton. So bring it. Other than that, it's deserts like 29 Palms, Yuma, stuff on. Then mountains, then more desert, then the river, and then So yeah.
We also have Fort Bliss down there in El Paso. That's got a quick response time to deal with anything on there. One, they're right on the border, but they can also flex out troops anywhere they needed to if that was an actual scenario. So.
And all those golf courses along the border in Texas offer great fields of fire. So as you come across those golf courses, prepare to get mown down on the ninth green. Just saying.
Yeah. Well. I was gonna say probably not on the green because they're not green. The greens are green. Everything else is not.
Yeah. Okay. Dry it up and
yeah.
Nevertheless, open fields of fire. Andrew has joined us. So Dennis also says, Marty, I backed the Savage Frontier Kickstarter as well. Awesome. I love the river boats. I can't wait to paint them and do a Lewis and Clark inspired game. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I was sort of thinking along the same lines, but like I said, I didn't have a rule set, so I have not played it at all yet. So like before I start getting all crazy with scenarios, I should probably figure out how to play any basic rules for this time frame.
So these river boats, are we talking about like bateau or?
Hold on, I'll show it to you if I can figure out where.
That's something you see a lot of in the American Revolution.
Where'd the boat go? I had the boat out. I like it. I was playing with it. I swear to God, it was right here. What did I do with my boat? I lost my boat. Did I put my boat away?
So if I'm saying this right, Gene Haskins, or is that John Haskins? Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Now, see, that's something I would love to watch out, a modern warfare invasion of the United States. We've talked about it, and friends of mine used to game this out. Of course, we grew up in the 80s, so we all watched Red Dawn. We were like tweens.
Yep.
I was like 12, 13 when Red Dawn came out. Maybe 11 or 12 when Red Dawn came out. So we were all into it. We're like, oh my God. We didn't see it as a horror movie. We were like, that's a fantasy. Like, why can't that happen in our life? We were kids. We didn't know any better. What actual guerrilla warfare really looks like.
Yeah, but it was a very, I don't know, for, a teenage kid at the time, fantasy romantic view of defending the homeland kind of scenario.
Yeah, and then we get to the scene where Patrick Swayze, rest in peace, has that meltdown scene. We've had discussions sometimes in Discord and other places, like the best scenes in war movies, where Patrick Swayze has that meltdown on the side of the mountain. He's all by himself. He's out there in the snow. That's one of, I mean, he really was a great actor. That's probably, not to get all heavy or whatever. That's war in a nutshell, man. It's absolutely, it's way better than Tom Hanks's breakdown in Saving Private Ryan. I mean, Tom Hanks is a great actor, and he does a great one, but the one that Patrick Swayze gives, after he just had to basically execute one of his best friends, and his brother's completely losing his shit, and his people are dying, and it's now the nasty side of the war. Yeah. But the scenario for how, when the Air Force Lieutenant Colonel, Powers Booth, like actually explains how the war happened, I'm like, oh my God, dude. I remember being 13 in the theater going, have you guys looked at a map? Recently. This is how they did it in Afghanistan. Well, Afghanistan's not America.
Yeah, are you sure it happened that way? Because I don't think it did.
So,
all right, so you were asking about the boat. I do not have it painted, but that is our little fur trader, trapper, explorer boat, if you will.
That's way better than what I'm thinking of.
Oh,
so pretty nice.
Nice.
Yeah, it comes with a bunch of stowage. It's got ropes and like furs that are already packaged and bound up, and it's got some loose ones as well. And it comes with the crew. The dude at the front's got a swivel gun, so he can defend his boat.
That's practically Lake Champlain, Battle of Lake Champlain. Benedict Arnold had to build his own navy at 1-to-1 scale. He had 6 months. and he still lost, but not really. Battle of Elkhorn Island. Hello, Rasmus. Thanks for coming out.
Hey, Raz. What's up, buddy?
No, I was thinking of Bateau. Bateau is a riverboat you see in a lot of French and Indian War, American Revolution, and even into 1812. And it's basically like if you took like 3 or 4 pallets from a warehouse and lashed them together and threw them in the water.
I was gonna say that's a much smaller, kind of simpler setup. And then I got the where we at? Got my trapper defending his stuff there.
Oh, okay.
So
is the boat resin or is it plastic?
It is resin. The hull is resin. The cabin is resin, and the cabin comes off. You could glue it on if you wanted to, but I'm the guy that if I can pull something apart, I will. But there's a bunch of metal pieces that go on there too, like that long rudder is all metal. The posts on it are metal, as well as a couple other little pieces, but the majority of it is resin. That was kind of one of the complaints is on the cabin portion. The resin sprues were the corners, but the corners also supposed to be cut out so they fit into the boat and it'll lock in. And well, you might have had to carve those back in yourself. So there were a lot of people that were like, this doesn't fit right. It doesn't do what it's supposed to do. I'm like, bro, figure it out. There's a notch in the boat. There's supposed to be a notch here.
That's why they call it hobby. I mean, it's going to take a little bit.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's really all it took was a little bit. I mean, you clipped off the big chunk of extra stuff. You cleaned up and carved out a little bit, to make it fit. And Bob's your uncle. Worked fine.
With resin, there's always like a 5%. You're going to have to do a little bit of this yourself. Cleaning, obviously
That's
cleaning.
True.
But, grinding, reshaping, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Cool. So, anyway, as far as invasion of the United States in modern times, I mean, I don't want to take the whole podcast talking about that. Maybe we'll come back and we'll talk about that in a few. It might be a good topic for a future episode. But we've done it. We've just to quickly summarize. We've tried a number of different ways. As recently as yesterday, John and I were talking about possible invasion routes through Florida. Florida is in some ways, it depends on how you look at it, how you kind of close your eye and tilt your head, kind of, Some ways it's a pretty good invasion point. There's lots of roads. You have a very narrow front because if you come across like Orlando I-4 to St. Petersburg, you've got maybe a 150-mile front. And as far as to defend against counterattacks, meanwhile you've already got at least 3 major ports. You've got Port Everglades for the fuel. You've got Tampa, St. Pete, and you've got Miami, Port of Miami, where all the container stuff comes in. And you've already cut off the fuel supplier for the Southeast United States. It all comes through Port Everglades. So, and there's tons of roads. So your back area's got plenty of mobility as far as your backfield goes. How you're going to break out into southern Georgia and Alabama, that's going to be like the Bocage of the Southeast.
Right.
But we've thought about that. How far north do they drive to Chicago and split the country in half, or at least split off the Northeast from the rest of the country? And it's
there's a lot of rednecks you got to get through first.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Oh, it never really works. Spoiler alert: it never works. It never works. The closest we've ever come
to the Dixie line.
Yeah, I'm sorry. What was that?
Welcome to the Dixie line.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and as it turns out, so America's got this Second Amendment thing, and there's a crap ton of guns. Like, there are exponentially more guns than there are people in our country. And it's
not all people have guns, but those that do tend to have like 20.
Yeah, nobody has one gun. Yeah, I mean that's
you
not
either
a
have
thing.
0 or 50. It's pick one.
Yeah, so the Japanese were absolutely right in World War II when they said they weren't going to invade the mainland because there'd be a gun behind every blade of grass.
I dare them to
There's
try.
some truth to that.
Yeah, it's they couldn't invade Midway, which we'll get into in just a second.
Yeah, right.
So just to quickly wrap up, for hobby, I've been working on Abrams as well, the same Abrams that Piotr's working on. I am nowhere near brave enough to try the 4-color camouflage that he's doing so well, so I am definitely sticking with the historically accurate. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. My historically accurate, yeah, go ahead and cough. This is what they actually had in Desert Storm and Iraqi Freedom, so this is what I'm using. The real reason is I'm just afraid to try that 4-color shit, because that stuff's too hard. Obviously, they've got a long way to go, so maybe we'll see some future hobby streams where I get further on these. And of course, I got my Bradleys, because say what you will about the Bradley, again, they were there, so I have to include them.
It's true, they were there.
Properly used, they do real well. Exhibit A, Ghost Troop on 73 Easton. They do really well when you use them right. It's just, were they the right tool for the job? I've also done some Valorant Victory gaming with my friend Arrigo. We did some 1980s Mujahideen versus Soviet motor rifles for the Combined Arms Army. This is the game that Damon and I tried in a disastrous stream. I don't even remember how long ago, like 4 months ago, where literally everything went wrong, both in the game and out the game.
I was gonna say, is that the infamous nothing worked game?
Literally nothing worked. I tried to record it. That didn't work. And by the time we just said, fuck it, I'll just play it and we'll come back and discuss it later or something, I was so flustered and frustrated and I wasn't paying attention to the game. I drove my first BTR right into his RPG. I lost a third of my force on the first die roll of the game. Some days you just need to have stayed in bed. I mean,
it was a historical move on your part.
Maybe.
Yeah, it was oddly appropriate, I guess.
I was gonna say, once again, perhaps you were going for historical accuracy.
Yes, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
That's what I would go with.
Do you see this valley, comrade? Why not drive into it?
Yeah. Oh, look, it has a road. Let's
What's
use
that noise? They said there were moons up in this woods. Well, let's go find them. Hey, sir, we found them. Oh, by the way, we're all on fire. Other than that, everything's great.
People waving at us.
They're not waving at you. They're trying to put out the flames because you just blew up your BTR, but fully loaded with infantry, by the way. Yeah, that was a bad afternoon. So we retried that. That's recorded and in the can. Keep an eye out for those videos to come out hopefully in the next 2 Wednesdays, if everything goes according to plan. And of course, last Sunday we did at least partially keep our earlier promise that we were going to observe the 80th anniversary of Midway. We did the Admirals game with my friend Rasmus. I say did in the past tense. I should say we are doing because we didn't finish the game. We've got through the first 4 turns. In game terms, it's currently 1,600 hours on 4 June. It was planned for a 1-day stream because most times I run this system. This is a system I've been designing and kicking around for like 5 years now. We first tried it out during the 75th anniversary back in 2017. Now we're kind of trying it again with a bunch of embellishments and enhancements and clean up the rules a little bit. It's still not perfect. There's still some stuff we have to fix. But it's a lot better than it was. We just have a little bit more to go. Most times that I've tried this, either solitaire or against a live opponent, the battle's over by now. One side or the other has lost all their carriers. But right now, Rasmus and I I'm playing the Americans, he's playing the Japanese. We each have one carrier left. USS Yorktown, which Rasmus technically still hasn't found. Not only is she not sunk, they haven't even found her yet. So USS Yorktown is still prowling around out there with almost a full air group. And I have most of my aircraft on Midway still. And the one remaining Japanese carrier, because I have sunk 3, IGN Hiryu, is making full steam flank speed at course 270 straight to the west. Basically, he's hauling ass, which is a good move. He turned his fleet around just in time. If he hadn't turned his fleet around when he had, if he had still been coming towards Midway or even staying still, this game would be over. I would have sunk all 4 of his carriers in that first big strike. Because when he turned, he was no longer in range of my entire force. Task Force 17, that's USS Yorktown, was a little bit further away. It was like 60 miles further to the north. And therefore, my planes weren't able to reach. Range is a thing. The Pacific is a big, big puddle of water, and those planes could only fly combat range, like there and back, like 170 miles. This game gives them 180 because it's 20-mile hexes, but all the same, we're already kind of stretching it. And it's amazing how short the range is. So you really got to be careful with the placement of your fleets. So Rasmus made a move. I think it was on turn 2 or turn 3. Yeah, earlier on turn 3, that more or less saved the game. So right now we each have one carrier left. He's coming at me with his battleships and his invasion fleet, but I've already sunk one of his battleships, and submarine USS Nautilus already torpedoed another one. So that one's pretty much never going to make it. Speed-wise, because it's moving at half speed now. I got a lot of battleships to go, and of course 3,000 pissed-off Marines on the island ready to defend the island. If you read most military experts like Drakinif, I can never pronounce his name, Drakinifel, and some of the other people he's done some recent 80th anniversary. The guy who wrote Shattered Sword, his name escapes me at the moment. It's pretty much a foregone conclusion that you're not going to overcome that garrison with what was there. And the game is kind of designed that way. However, if Rasmus sinks the USS Yorktown, because he's already sunk USS Enterprise and USS Hornet, sorry to say, if he sinks my last carrier, then that's it. It's Japanese victory. Midway would eventually fall. Pretty much it's going to come down to whoever loses the last carrier. He's going to try and take a poke at Midway, because he also wins if he can take Midway. I just don't think that that's going to happen. Not because of any bad play on his part or good play on my part. The game is designed to make that incredibly hard based on historical conditions. So keep an eye out for that. We're going to finish that game tomorrow at time of this recording. That's going to be Sunday the 12th. We're probably looking to go live at our usual time, about 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. UK. So hopefully we'll see what happens there. That's pretty much it for
cool.
me and Hobby. We've talked already a long time. Let's get to news. Marty, what's going on?
All right. Well, one moment while I pull this up. I don't know. Flip this over there. All right. So, unlike our last podcast where I had 4 pages of news, because it'd been a month. Yep. It's been a while. This one's almost 1 page. It's just over 1 page. And some of it's kind of light, fluffy stuff, but some stuff that caught my eye. We'll start off with Warlord Games. Nothing about new releases or any of that. I mean, there's some of that. We've already talked about it with Combined Arms and that type of stuff, and they've got things on pre-order all the time. But they do a web store exclusive every year or every month, excuse me. And as I was scrolling through my my usual news places, I rolled across Warlord Games, and this guy this month just happens to be a World War II soldier with Cup of Joe, and I like the figures, so I'm like, oh, I might have to get one of those because it's $8.
Military runs on coffee.
Right, and then if you order more than $75 worth of stuff from them, they'll throw one in your order for free. But you can only get one of their monthly figures. But if you wanted two, you could buy one for $8, and then if you spend over $75, they'll still throw in another one. So you could get two that way if that's your thing. I might order one for $8. I don't need any other Warlord stuff right now.
You need a 28mm burn barrel, so the guy can just stand there with his coffee.
Hanging around. Let's see what else we got here. Gringo 40s is releasing some new stuff for their Vietnam range. So they've got a bunch of SOG figures that are available, and let's click over here to Gringo.
I haven't seen this one yet, but I've seen Gringo 40 28mm Vietnam stuff in the past. I think they're the best I've ever seen. Down to the M16, you can tell the difference between the M16 and the M16A1 because on a 28mm figure, it doesn't have the forward assist. When your 28mm gets down to that level of detail, it doesn't have the right hand side of the forward receiver or of the upper receiver. That's some hella detail on your 20mm miniatures.
Well, and like on their M16s, the charging handle is hollowed out.
Holy crap! People who might not know, in real life, that's a piece of the weapon a little bigger than this. It's what you pull back on top of the upper receiver to chamber the first round. Underneath there, it's actually hollow. It's a little bit of sheet metal.
The amount of detail that they put in here. So let's see, they got and because these are the SOG guys, they're all carrying the Car 15s, the carbine versions. So there's a trooper advancing with the car. There's a NCO that is taking aim, so he's kind of a standing stance. But he also has a cut down M79, the old bloop tube there, 40mm grenade launcher, which is really nothing more than a grenade launcher shotgun. That's all it is. Break open 40mm shotgun. They've got another guy that's advancing with his gun at the load ready. All these dudes are full kit too, so they've got packs and all that, all their gear hanging off them. They got another one advancing full kit. They have a Montagnard trooper that's kneeling. They've got a SOG guy that's kneeling, and he's firing a Russian RPD. I'm sure that never happened in Vietnam.
For those long-range missions, you had to. Those LRRG, long-range reconnaissance group missions, a lot of times they carried Soviet weapons because you couldn't carry enough ammo. You'd be out there for a month. Yep. And you're not going to find 5.56 out there. So
you're going to go find their stuff. Yep. Yeah. So then, let's see, they got a Montagnard trooper that's firing an M79, and he's all kitted up. And then one that I particularly like, they got a Montagnard trooper that's kneeling, but he's got a Swedish K, a little SMG, kind of looks like a grease gun.
Like those old MAT 49 left over from French Indochina War. Piotr knows about that. You and your damn Frenchman at Firebase Beatrice.
Beautiful.
Yep.
You ever see a battalion of Vietnamese go up in a puff of smoke in one turn in Valor and Victory? It's easy to kill a battalion in one turn in Panzerleader. You do that shit in Valor and Victory, that's something to see. I lost 200 guys, 300 guys, and a couple of rolls of the dice. I was like, shoveling counters off the map.
Yikes. So there's some other ones there, but you can go to gringo40.com. They have a whole bunch of different lines. So you're gonna just look for the MacV SOG figures, and you can see all of those. And they're I don't know, $4, $5 a piece, and they're fairly.
Go ahead, Piotr.
I was gonna say they're fairly affordable.
Yeah, I have a few of them. The only problem I have with them is that they are slightly bigger than the Empress ones, and I got my Empress ones earlier, so I have quite a nice collection of some Empress miniatures when it comes to Vietnam. And then I bought some Gringo ones, but they are just too big, too bulky.
Yep.
They don't fit and don't match with the army. But they are great miniatures nonetheless. I really like them. They have more detail, that's for sure. That's what the Jim was talking about. They are great.
It's amazing the amount of detail they're able to push in there.
Just have your Empress ones be Army, and your Gringo 40 be your big corn-fed Marines, because those are gonna be some big old pumpkin.
I mean, what do we do with the giant Montagnards then?
Oh yeah, that's also true. That might not be right.
I don't think they're from Nebraska.
That's gonna be what was his name? Who was the guy Jean-Claude Van Damme fought in Bloodsport? His name completely forgets me. That one giant martial artist guy.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't know his name.
Name begins with a B, like something Yo or so. Anyway, the biggest. I don't know what country he comes from, but the biggest Asian dude I've ever seen. He's just like this. Looks like the Pillsbury Doughboy, but it's all muscle.
And I was gonna say, and he's ripped.
He's badass.
Jacked. Yeah. Oh, let's see. Moving on. Firelock Games Kickstarter update. For those of you that may have gotten in on their Raise the Black Kickstarter, that would be this guy.
It's for Blood and Plunder, right?
Yep. Looks like they've got everything into production, and they are going to meet their shipping goal of getting it shipped somewhere between August and November of this year. Now that goal's been backed up 4 times, but this is the current one. So if you are a Kickstarter, you can go on Kickstarter and see the update, and they've got a whole paragraph on stuff there. Let's see what else we got. Plastic Soldier Company. So
I've heard about this. Go ahead.
The first models for Centag
finally
are on the way to their painters.
Talk about something that's been backed up too many times.
Yeah, so
Americans in Germany.
They've got it says they've got some U.S. vehicles like the 113s and the M60 tanks.
Yeah, and so 2 seconds for people who might not know. This is for Northag, originally with Northag, now it's going to be Centag. This is basically PSC's answer to Team Yankee. It is set a little earlier. I think they set it in 83. So you're going to see T64s, Chieftains, and M60s as opposed to T80s, Challengers, and T80s.
Yep, and let's see here. Does not say when exactly they're going to release, but it says keep an eye out for more previews of the expansion of the Northag model range as they move forward with the Centag expansion. So
I assume that's also going to be in 10 millimeter, same as.
And same scale, yeah. And I didn't see anything on their webpage. I actually found this on their Facebook page, but they're digging through their webpage. They didn't really mention much about it. So
sounds like their social media guy is further ahead than their web developer,
right? Or maybe
or
that's. Yeah, or maybe that's just their social media strategy. I don't know, but I thought that was kind of odd that I couldn't corroborate that with like a news post or a blog post or something, and some sort of announcement on the webpage. But it is from the Plastic Soldier Company's Facebook page. It's not somebody said something about it.
Yeah. My uncle said. Just go ahead,
From what I have seen, Pierce Brand was informing the community on what's going on with Centag for months like now, because people were asking how is the expansion going, and he was from time to time saying that he was discussing the stuff with PSC and he can tell this and that for now. So not really much about the system was being sent by the producer himself.
I've got the book.
And if you go to their Facebook page, they've got photos of the 113 on their Facebook post. So You can actually see what they've got going. What else? Oh, hey, so this next item, again, it's just because I find weird shit that amuses me. Blacklight Studios, they make pre-painted MDF terrain. They do a great job of it. I had a good time talking with those guys at Adepticon a while back. They have created the ultimate Texas themed kit. Because it is their Not a Burger restaurant, which is a straight up parody ripoff of Whataburger. And it is really, really good. I mean, it looks fantastic. When I first saw it, I'm like, oh, wow, did they license that from Whataburger?
It's historically accurate.
Yeah, I mean, the difference is instead of the logo being a W, it's an N. Other than that, same shaped buildings, same colors, same everything. I'm like, oh, that's awesome.
Is this like McDowell's hamburgers from Coming to America?
Yeah.
They have the golden arcs. We have the golden arches. It's not McDonald's, it's McDowell's.
Yeah, very much so. So that I'm like, wow, that is awesome.
So earlier we were talking about modern invasions of the U.S. That's a building you would only find in the U.S. To my knowledge. So
nowhere else. But I mean, they've got the building, they've got like planter boxes and crap outside. They've got the drive-through you can set up, the little call box and whatnot. They've got flagpole and the big marquee sign that goes on the side of the road. And then you can play the inside. They've got booths and tables and chairs and stuff that go inside there. So
all we need is a waitress with rollerblades coming out there with a tray of soft drinks.
They've gotten into making their own miniatures as well because they made their own game, which is an 80s horror game. So I would not be surprised to find that you can get that figure from them as well. Good times. Gotta like it. And then final bit of news from our friend Forrest over at Knuckle Duster Miniatures right down the road from me. He's on his Facebook page. He announced that there may be some shipping delays here for a little bit. They are moving manufacturing from his shop here in Illinois to a contractor in Utah.
Okay.
So he's hooked up with the guy out there that has better, faster capabilities.
That sounds like a scaling upgrade.
Yeah. Yeah,
there's only so much you can make in your garage or whatever local place that you have.
Yeah, so he says we normally ship orders the next day or two after they're placed. He says, but for the next month or so, and this came out yesterday. So think for the rest of June for sure, and maybe into July. It might take 4 or 5 days to ship, just because they're working out the bugs and getting manufacturing processes and stuff moved around. And of course, Forrest is so polite. He's like, I apologize for the delay, but it's temporary.
Also, we're talking about, like you were saying, like 4 or 5 days. I've ordered miniatures from companies that shall remain nameless. I didn't get receipt of the email for 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
Thank you for your order.
Sure.
It's like, oh, I thought maybe it got lost on the internet somewhere. Thanks.
Yeah. So, Forrest is moving his manufacturing somewhere else. I mean, he's still designing all the stuff, making the masters, all that jazz, but he is not going to be doing the production runs of the miniatures.
Crunching out the product.
Yeah, because I mean, let's face it, his time is better spent creating the miniatures and then having someone else, make 1 million of them or whatever.
So to catch up on, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and that's it for my news, sir.
Oh, sweet.
That's all I have. Told you I'd try and take it easy.
I may add something.
Go ahead, Piotr.
Because I saw that Phalanx Games, I don't know if you know the company, is putting out a late pledge on the Purple Haze game, which is so to speak, a cooperative game. Your Huey is down, you have a squad of guys, and you have to survive in the jungle.
I was going to say, Purple Haze, that's probably Vietnam, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So you can still grab it, and I think it might be one of these games that are a little bit different than what you usually see about Vietnam. So you can go and check it out. Its name is Purple Haze, and the company is Phalanx Games.
And it's cooperative. You
Awesome.
said that's kind of that is different.
Yeah, you don't see a whole lot of that.
Cooperative.
You can play it as
anyway.
you can play it by yourself, or you can have up to 4 friends, I believe. So they have the core game and 4 expansions for grab if you want to take it.
Back when we still had a local club, I took a cooperative modern warfare game, Warfighter, to the club, and then me and like a couple friends, then my girlfriend said, "Yeah, I'll try." So you have all these. That game comes with like thousands of cards, like literally thousands, and most of the cards are just like your kit, like knee pads, extra mic, extra shotgun shells, body armor, or whatever. And Jen's going through there, and we draw the deck for what kind of mission we want to play. We're doing a hostage rescue mission. Remember that. We're doing a hostage rescue mission. So now my girlfriend's going through the cards to pick out her gear. She's like, "Oh look, I can afford a Predator drone strike." So you're going, this is a hostage rescue mission. We have to get these people out of here alive.
I mean, that might be a little OP for what you're trying to do.
I mean, God bless her for going there, but at the same time, I'm like, that's not going to work for this exact mission, please. We don't want to blow up the hostages.
Great.
Awesome. All right, so we're through the news. That's awesome. Wow, we got quite a few comments. Let me catch up on real quick. Rasmus says I have one of those too. I think he was talking about your resin boat.
He got the. I think he did the big all-in pledge for that Kickstarter, if I remember. Cool. We talked about it like a year ago.
Rasmus says, resin. Rasmus also says resin. Take a cleanup surprise. I guess he means like depends on how much.
Yeah, it's no surprise that resin needs cleanup. All resin. It doesn't matter, if it came from Tim or anyone else. If it's a resin thing, there's going to be some cleanup.
Yep. The only resin kits I ever really played with was some Battlefront stuff, and we had resin and metal, and that's when it gets really rough because you have to getting those to fit together doesn't always work too well. Rasmus says, okay. Rasmus also says, I almost did think you would say the rest of the U.S. don't care if you take Florida. Well, it's a good place to start if you think about it operationally. It's a good place to start breaking out of Florida. That's when all the advantages for your initial landing. Then it comes to breaking out of Florida. Now that narrow front is working against you, unless you start dropping additional amphibious landings up the Gold Coast, I think they call it, Georgia, South Carolina. You start to try and take Savannah, or you head the other way up the Gulf Coast. Mobile is there, Pensacola, Panama City, stuff like that.
And the East Coast is rough. I mean, we've got a ton of military stuff, not just Navy, but Army there too. I mean, you want to go to Savannah? Fort Stewart is literally 30 miles from there.
Kings Bay is right up the coast.
Right.
That's like most of our nukes, most of our boomers.
Yeah.
Are right there, at least on the East Coast.
Yeah, I mean, we've got Camp Lejeune with the Marines. We've got Fort Bragg with the Army.
Well, I've seen Russian plans. They invade the entire United States, and there's like this little bubble around Camp Lejeune. They don't come near there. They don't come near Camp Lejeune, 29 Palms, or Pendleton. They just leave that alone, or they just nuke the shit out of it. One or the other. Of course, I'm kidding about that. So okay, we're talking about. Let's see here. Okay, so now we're talking about the Midway game. 3,000 Marines on a speck of land. We're talking about whether or not Rasmus is going to try to land on Midway. 3,000 Marines on a speck of land with no WKM. I'm not sure what WKM stands for. So, they really have no way out. Or with no WMs? Okay, women, of course, they are pissed off. Okay, I got you now. I got you. Yeah,
there you go.
Can't argue with that. Rasmus says it's not the Marines I feel, it's the remaining air groups and the 2 carriers who landed on Midway. That's because you haven't tried to land on Midway yet. When you try to put your troops on there, and hopefully half of your transports are already sunk, that's when it's going to get rough. Midway is an absolute, I mean, historically speaking, Midway is an absolute nightmare of a place to try and land on. If the game was more detailed, what I would do is I would take my one crippled heavy cruiser, USS Pensacola, and I would just steam her or tow her into that channel. There's really only one way you can get to Midway, and just blow her up and drop her there as a block ship and say, okay, come at me, bro. You know, because it's other than that, it's reefs that you can't.
Just
really
a giant
approach.
FU. Go ahead, work your way around my boat.
Because that heavy cruiser is pretty much tanked anyway, even if I make my damage control check. Which we'll literally see if the stream, or I should say, our call is up. Let's see if the stream recovers.
It's loading at my end.
We've decided this happened because you were talking shit to Rasmus, and apparently he's got a sleeper cell somewhere.
Yeah, maybe he's got electronic warfare going.
It's got some good.
The Japanese Midway Lovers Club.
Yeah, right.
All right, it looks like we've recovered. We are back up on YouTube.
You're back.
Cool. All right, we're back up on YouTube, and we are back up on Skype. Sorry about that, everybody. Yeah, so you guys may have missed that before, but Marty was talking about that might have been Japanese electronic warfare.
Yeah, that's what I think it was.
Yep.
So I'm the conspiracy theorist that's going to go there.
I was talking trash about what was going on in tomorrow's game, and next thing you know,
Rasmus has a sleeper cell. That's what it is.
This is what you get for breaking our purple code. I'm going to blow up your stream.
Yep.
Okay, guys. In all honesty, we're just about done. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Piotr.
No, come at me, bro. And he did.
Is that right?
That's true. I did say that. Come at me, bro. He's like, okay, stream tanked.
As you wish.
Yep. Careful what you wish for. So real quick, we had 2 possible ideas for a topic to go through kind of quick. But you guys have a preference over which one, the simulation versus game, or all of the anniversaries that are this month? Which topic you wanted to kind of buzz through super fast? They both could kind of be like almost whole shows.
I was gonna say we could make a show out of either of those. It turns out we just make a show out of talking crap to each other.
Well, yeah. By the time we get through our hobby and news was pretty quick this time. By the time we get through the hobby section, we almost never get to the topic. In fact, in my 3 shows, I don't think we've gotten to the topic once yet. All right. So it was covered a little bit in Piotr's videos earlier in the week. So Piotr, did you want to talk more about simulation versus game?
Oh,
if not, we can go to the other one.
No, of course, we can talk about it. I'm even prepared for this talk. I'm not prepared for the anniversary talk, so we can go and talk about the simulation.
There you go.
There you go. Problem solved. So
Piotr, you prepared. I didn't prepare for either, so that way you're getting the same thing either way.
So consistency and delivery, that's important in supply chain.
That's right.
All right, so to kind of to tee this up for our audience, a topic that sort of came up during Piotr and Eric's discussion about Team Yankee the other day is, some people might not like Team Yankee because it's not either realistic or accurate enough, and those are 2 different things. We'll get into that in a second. But it's more of a game rather than a simulation, and that's absolutely true. There are games that are awful, in that they're super complicated. They're literally unplayable. I've got a couple of them right here. Phoenix Command is a skirmish level war game that literally measures TOF, time of flight, tenths of a second it takes for your bullet to hit a target. I'm actually not kidding about that. MBT is another one. Yeah, that's almost absurd. I'm not going to break out the rule book, but it's a great game if you're into it. But good God Almighty, man, the rule book is just insane, and it's for basically platoon level combat. So your army, air quotes, is basically 2 to 4 tanks in most scenarios, depending on the scenario you're playing.
Is the GMT one?
Avalon Hill.
Okay.
MBT.
Because I believe GMT games put out the MBT with some add-ons a few years back.
They added on to that monster. It was already too big, and they added on more. I mean, okay. So it's a sliding spectrum. And then you've got games like Checkers. Checkers isn't really a war game, but there's Checkers. Then there's things like Stratego. I've actually heard some people call Stratego a war game. I had to slap them. It wasn't my fault. I had to slap them.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm pretty generous about what is or isn't. I don't think that's.
It's Napoleonic warfare, man. I mean, Battleship. That's not an actual. Battleship's not a war game. But then you get to the ones that are a little. It could go either way. Games like Memoir 44, games like Risk, the original board game, and maybe even Axis and Allies, the original war game. Like that's where it starts to. Okay, is this an actual war? Down to what is a war game versus what is a strategy game. Some people say chess is a war game. I absolutely disagree. I think when you call chess a war game, you're almost doing a disservice to chess. Chess, of course, is a strategy game. Not all strategy games are war games, and vice versa. Down to Team Yankee. Like, what does Team Yankee do well? What does it not do well? And that's the part we already talked, or Eric and Piotr already talked about. But where that whole like simulation versus game, or game versus simulation, like where that sweet spot is for you guys, and also for our friends in the community. So whoever wants to go first.
When it comes to me, sorry, Marty.
No, go.
When it comes to my opinion on that topic, is that I like games. When it comes to war games, miniature games, to be more precise, I like games that have a clean and smooth mechanics that play well. You don't have to skip through the rule book all the time, and they are maybe not too historically accurate or correct when it comes to some of the statistics of the units, because that is always a hard thing to do, and there are literally a few games that I can count on the fingers of my one hand that try to do this in a good manner. But when I want to play something harder, and that's more of a simulation type of a game, I play Hex Encounters. No war game can compete with a Hex Encounters game. War game meaning miniatures game, of course. And then I can sit with the rule book. I can check the facts. I can check whether I did something good or wrong when it comes to the rules. And that's why, because you sit at the Hex Encounters board and you can think. It doesn't have to run smooth. It's great when it does, but it makes you think more about what you're going to do, actually, and it's on a bigger scale. When it comes to miniature wargaming, I like it in a more lightly sauce, so to speak. That it's smooth, it's easy, but it's not stupid. It's easy to learn and hard to master. That's my thinking on this topic. And I don't like miniature wargames that simulate stuff. I like it when it's a game that can be played and introduced to a number of people with ease, because the access and entry point being a miniatures game is also higher at the very beginning of it. And when you buy a Hex Encounters game, you buy one game and you can play with all your friends if you like. When you get a miniatures game, you have to buy the models, you have to do the table, the scenery and stuff like that. That's why when I play this kind of games, I like it when it's easy, accessible, not stupid, and the mechanics is working to your advantage and not stalling the game. That's my take on this topic in a short story.
I would agree with a lot. Especially, I mean, I'm leaving out things like Black Powder, Medievals, Ancients, because their miniature gaming becomes a lot easier because the distances and the scales are a lot more manageable. But once you get into Smokeless Powder, once you get into World War One, pretty much 20th and 21st century, the ranges get completely out of whack, and it's tough to play in miniatures anyway. So to your point specifically, by the time you're playing a miniatures game, again, I'm talking about 20th and 21st century stuff.
Yep.
You've already kind of again, historical accuracy is one thing. Tactical realism is another. Tactical realism has already gone
True.
by the boards. So don't. Yeah, this is where I agree. Don't try to have a super realistic mechanical physical game where it's, you have to account for bullet drop and projectile dispersion and all kinds of ballistic stuff, armor ablation, armor angle. Just sit down, chuck some dice, and have some fun. Up to a point. I mean, there are some miniature games out there that are just kind of absurd. And to be fair, there are some hex and counter games out there that are absurd. Just literally too simple rather than too easy. It's interesting to hear you say that, and I kind of agree that miniatures games has a steeper or a narrower gateway for initial engagement because you have to go out there, buy physical models, build physical stuff. But at the same time, whenever you set up a miniatures table, like at any kind of a public event, nobody stops at the Pension Leader table. Nobody stops at at the assault table. They go to the miniatures table. Those are the tables that draw everybody's interest, even if they're not into wargaming.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Because it's eye-catching. You have terrain,
Totally.
you have these small tanks, infantry, and not some paper counters that some weird people in baseball caps try to push around, and they are thinking, what is my next move going to be? Because the whole game depends on that.
Nothing beats like you're watching a couple of guys play a hex and counter game, and all you see is like 17 trillion hexes and like 15,000 counters, and then somebody moves like 1 second counters, and the other guy just loses his shit. It's like, what happened? What just changed? I mean, in a miniature table, it's kind of easy. You take the turret off the tank, you put some smoke on it. Okay, that guy just took a hit. That stuff happens in a hex and counters game, and you're like, I must not know this system because he's losing his marbles over something, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've seen that happen. I've seen that happen at the OTT studios. My friend Bruce Lee dropped some Soviet paratroopers behind NATO lines in World War 2.5, and the look on I think it was Rob's face, and it may have also been Rasmus. I think Rasmus was playing the Americans as well. All of a sudden, like a division of Russian paratroopers ended up in Frankfurt or something. It was like, and that game got intense, man. People were calling me aside because I was running the game. They're like, "Is it true that I can actually do this?" Because they come back to the table, and both sides. Then the other guy says, "Oh wait, he's talking to the game master about something. I got to go talk to him about something." And then one guy pulled me aside, and he pulls me over to the coffee machine. He's like, "I don't really have a question. I just want him to think I'm asking you about something to freak him out a little bit."
And I was little psyop.
Yeah. So I got into it. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's a really good." Oh, sorry. Let me not give away your plan there. And then we kind of come back, and I'm like smiling, and that was a fun game. But yeah, it's a hex and counters thing. It depends on what kind of game you're looking for.
You push one of these counters, and the audience goes.
Yeah. And people who don't get into that kind of wargaming are like, y'all are mentally damaged. There's something wrong with you people.
Yeah, well,
So how about you, Marty?
So I'm not a hex and counter guy. I mean, it's not that I've never played them, but that's not my forte. I like these smaller,
healthy,
skirmish games. Particularly I play primarily in 28 millimeter. But much to Piotr's point, the game has to be playable. I mean, you can't get bogged down in.
There
all
are
the
some
minutia.
miniature games that get that way. Fistful of Toes. Reasonable men may argue, but Fistful of Toes. I love Panzerleader. I'm going to be buried. And then there's games like Assault that puts Panzerleader to shame. This is basically Panzerleader in Team Yankee setting. Platoon level. It's the exact same scale. It's just like Panzerleader, except it's specifically for 1980s, and it's made by GDW. It's a Frank Chadwick game. Much different game. That game's way chunkier than Panzerleader, and I enjoy the hell out of that game. But then you get to games like Fistful of Toes, which is a miniatures game. So it's not just miniatures versus hex encounters. Then there are hex encounter games like the original Platoon game. That game literally comes down to every figure on the table has one number, like +2 for an assault rifle, +5 for an M60, and then there's a slight variation in there to how good the guy is. And it's like different characters in the movie. And you roll a d10, and you add that number that's on the counter. And if that counter beats the enemy's defense dice by over 5, he's dead. I literally just explained the entire rule system. there's something about movement. But I mean, it's that's a hex and counter game that you can explain in 90 seconds. So it's not just hex and counter games are for big egg-headed grognards, and miniature games are for people who like to play with toys. There are complicated miniatures games that are too complicated, and then there are hex and counter games that are just too freaking simple. And there's definitely going to be oh, what do we got there? There goes another tank. No,
it's, I mean,
is that Piotr's signal that I'm talking too much again?
I mean, the
No,
because we're when you talk about
I wanted to say that you're awfully quiet today.
Well, he got shut down by Rasmus earlier.
Rasmus
blew
my transmission.
He's amazing. But there's something to be said between the difference between a game and simulation, because I've done like high level simulations in the military, and while that's great for exercising, like specifically, I evaluated brigade and division level staff. There's just a lot of moving parts and a lot of crap that I don't want to. It's not fun for me. I want to do that. I want to have fun. Let's scale this back, and I came here to throw dice and blow stuff up. Let's do that.
Absolutely, and there's nothing, and like a game like Panzer Leader, we played Panzer Leader where we haven't done this recently, but like back in the 90s when we used to play like still on physical boxes, just hammered drunk. Let's play some Panzer Leader. Okay, you literally reach into the box and you grab like the first 20 counters, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You count that. That's your army.
There's your army. Best of
luck. And the other guy gets 20. It's like, how do you end up with a King Tiger and I have a friggin' Stuart? Like, sorry, bro. It's the luck of the dice. The luck of the draw. And we've had like
grabbed better. I don't know.
Yeah. Dream teams versus mean teams. So just pick all the best shit in the box. So absurd stuff, like stuff that didn't even fight in the war. For some reason, Panzer Blitz comes with JS3 platoons, or half companies. So JS3s, JS2s, SU 152s, JSU 122s versus King Tigers, Sturm Tigers, Tiger Mosers, all that. I mean, Yog Tigers, I should say. Yog Panthers. I'm like, this battle never happened, but damn, it's fun. Holy shit, look at these giant mushroom clouds coming off the hex board.
But if it had happened, it'd have been pretty cool.
Yeah, unless you were there.
Panzer Leader has a very smooth mechanics that's really easy to learn, in my opinion. It's not hard. It might be daunting at first sight when you look at the rule book, try to understand it and read it. But once you get it, and it's not really hard to do when you have a teacher like Jim, you can play the game without a problem, and it runs really smoothly. The only time you bog down the game is when you think about your movement. It's not the mechanics that bogs down the game. It's you doing your thinking of your next step that bogs the game.
Yeah, when the game slows, it's not you looking up a rule furiously or looking at a card. It's what the hell am I going to do here? Because unlike some other games I could mention, Panzer Leader doesn't play the game for you. There's no spearhead rule. There's no breakthrough rule. There's no stormtrooper move rule. There's no, if you want to do like a reconnaissance, there's no like reconnaissance rule. Oh, this unit is using, reconnaissance movement or something. No, you have to actually do it. If you want to envelop the enemy, there's no like special rule for that. You have to actually find the terrain, where his blind flanks are, and actually execute. But in all fairness, first of all, thanks very much for the kind words, Piotr. But in all fairness, before people in the chat get the wrong idea, the kind of Panzer Leader that we're playing on our streams is actually usually Arab-Israeli wars, mechanically speaking. So if you buy Panzer Leader out of the box and you look at it, it has some tragic flaws. That game is inherently broken on a number of levels. Panzer Blitz is even worse. It's the Model T of tactical wargaming. I mean, it's one of the first games of its kind. It came out in the early 70s, late 60s, depending on your version. So it's been around for a while, and the problem is a lot of games have improved upon that same general idea since then, including their own line. So when we play, we're usually playing Arab-Israeli Wars, which is kind of like 3rd edition. They've cleaned up the rules and actually, place. We normally don't call it Arab-Israeli Wars because it gets confusing. We're playing Arab-Israeli Wars, and our scenario today is Normandy. After it's like, wait a minute, stop. And
neither the Arabs nor the Israelis were there.
Right. And,
one didn't even exist technically.
The Arab-Israeli War. What was I gonna say? I had another thought in my head, and I totally spaced out on it.
Says you.
Arab-Israeli Wars was never that popular. So Panzer Blitz and Panzer Leader were wargaming in the 1970s. I mean, you have to go way back, obviously. This is before Advanced Squad Leader. This is before GW. This is before 40K. It was wargaming. The problem is they came up with Arab-Israeli Wars, which fixed all the actual rules, but they focused on scenarios, Arab-Israeli Wars, that nobody really cared about as much as, Americans and British in Normandy. And the scenario design for Arab-Israeli Wars was really bad. There isn't a single balanced scenario in that box. I fixed all of them, but that's just on my own thing. But anyway.
You see how he's whining? They had war games in the 1970s, while we, in the Eastern Bloc, or the Warsaw Pact, so to speak, had one-to-one scale tanks.
Yeah, you guys were doing it for real, man.
We had no war games over here, man.
It wasn't a game over there. Right?
Well, it was a different kind of war game.
Yeah, it was a different kind of war game. How to take Berlin.
Prague was in 68, and the first edition of Panzer Leader came out in 69. And it published fully in like 1970. That was before all the stuff in Poland in the early 80s.
Oh, yeah. Well, Prague is famous because our army took part in this operation, so that's why the Czechs don't like us. Well, they still have a slight grudge about the fact that we were in the force in 1968 during their rising. Yeah,
it was all part of that social solidarity. Okay, it looks like Marty's phone died. All right, guys, we should probably wrap it up anyway. We've been up now for about an hour and a half, so we're going to go ahead and close the stream. Let me take just a moment to catch up on the chat here. Yeah, John agrees. MBT is just too bloody much. It might be okay if you're. It's almost a role playing game. I mean, it's not a role playing game, but it's almost like at that level of detail. You've got like 1 or 2 or 4. Like if you're a platoon leader, you got 4 tanks, and you're up against some Soviets. It's really serious. I won't break out the charts, but it's bad. Unless you're really into that. Again, it's a sliding scale. Playability versus simulation. If you're really into simulation, MBT is probably for you. It's Avalon Hill. It's a great company. So I'm not going to talk trash about the game. But Rasmus says, war, quotes, themed games, not war games. Yeah, this is where you get into the Call of Duty and Medal of Honor and stuff like that. Those aren't war games. They have war in them.
Protection.
Yeah, that doesn't make them a war game. Can't wait for the stats to be leaked on game sites for all games. That'd be cool. John says the visual aspect of wargaming is the attraction for me. Yeah, there's definitely something to be said for that. And once you get further back in history, Black Powder, and then even before that, like Push of Pike, and then into Medievals, then the Dark Ages and Ancients, all those scaling issues kind of vanish because the engagement ranges get much, much closer. A musket can actually shoot across the table, but not really most of the time. The only real Black Powder gaming I do is... Oh, we may have Marty return, or maybe he's gone for good. Oh, there we go.
I have returned. Sorry, my phone died.
Nope, no worries.
And he's back.
We're just wrapping up the chat anyway, to be honest. Rasmus says, I was on Bruce Lee's side. I had the South, he had the North. Yeah, that's that World War 2.5 game. That was epic. Oh, okay. Bruce Lee. That's right. Bruce Lee wasn't playing the Russians. He was playing the British. He was playing the British, and you were playing the Americans. That's right. You guys landed American paratroopers, or he actually had British paratroopers in East Germany. I got that entire scenario backwards. It was like 7 years ago. Sorry. Thanks, Rasmus, for correcting me on that. Long story short, take a drink. There you go. Absolutely. The complication aspect, says John, the complication aspect is what drove Bellus Antiquarius. WRG Ancients was too much, too unwieldy, so he wrote DBA. Yeah, this is where you get Valor and Victory. Valorant Victory is kind of a love letter to Advanced Squad Leader, which is a little too complicated.
Oh, yeah.
So they basically came back, well, not they, but a different guy, Barry Doyle, came back and wrote another game that does the same thing. Just, dude, take it down a couple notches. Let's have some fun. We often joke that when you're talking to an ASL player, you say Valorant Victory is ASL for dummies or ASL for kids. And when you're talking to a Valorant Victory player, you say Valorant Victory is ASL for people who have a life or people who have a job, or both are true, and both are kind of not true. It's the same basic
You
game.
either live or play.
It's just different. Again, that sliding scale of playability versus simulation. As just for me personally, I go a little bit more on the simulation side, but not all the way. Like on a scale of 0 to 10, I'm probably like a 6, maybe a 7. Because I am kind of a fanatic for my games being historically accurate. And you can have a historically accurate game that is tactically unrealistic, and vice versa. Um, Team Yankee is a great example. Team Yankee has some tactical realism in it. Historically accurate is zilch because the war never happened. I mean, that's the whole point. But when you set up an actual battle that did happen, it has to have at least some tactical realism, or else the game breaks down and it doesn't work. If it's not realistic, then the Marines will never land on Tarawa. The Japanese will always win at Midway, and Lee always wins at Gettysburg if it's not, set up with certain conditions in there. But again, don't go all the way with it. Either way, I don't want to play, Chinese checkers, and I don't want to play, rise and fall of, warfare in the rules of Clausewitz and Sun Tzu, and oh my god, the rule book is 7 zillion pages, and no thank you. But anyway, those are just my thoughts. Rasmus says, my club in the UK, we're big into DBA. Cool. And then we have November 15th. I'm not sure what that is in reference to, Rasmus.
The boot camp.
It was the boot camp. Yeah, it was right before. I think it was a little later than November 15th, but it was right around. It was right around Thanksgiving, in 2015. Oh, November 15, November of 2015. I got you. Okay. Yeah, that is accurate. Cool. All right, guys. So, any closing thoughts? Any last things to add before we close out the show?
Nope.
All right. Before Rasmus crashes her. Go ahead.
Thanks for joining us.
All the best.
No, we don't. We don't
wish
Rasmus all the best.
Midway because he's the guest of the podcast, so he has to win with the staff. That's the rules.
No, it's not. I can't always lose. I just lose usually. If I always lose, people are never going to come out to the stream because they know how the game turns out. I have to win once in a while, guys. Piotr's going to make me cry. Makes me cry once an episode. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and close things out. We are rounds complete. Tango Mike for listening. Thanks very much, everybody, for coming out. We had a great audience today. So super appreciate it. Again, tomorrow we're going to finish up that Midway game. And then I hope to have that Valorant Victory Afghanistan 1980s game pre-recorded sort of highlight reels out the next 2 Wednesdays. So don't hold me to that 100%. There's a lot of editing involved there, and I do have like a day job. So, but that's definitely what I'm going for. But we'll definitely have something up on Wednesday. If it's not the Valorant Victory thing, it'll be like a live stream. Maybe I'll work on my Abrams some more. But that Valorant Victory game that Valorant Victory video is coming. But other than that, yeah, thanks very much, Marty. Thanks very much, Piotr, for coming out. Thanks very much, everybody, for coming out to our audience. Super appreciate it. Yeah, we're rounds complete. So Tango Mike for listening, everybody. This is Oriskany Jim signing off. Have a great week, and yeah, we'll talk to you very soon.
See you the next show.
Thanks. Bye.